I want you to learn something that you can take with you for the rest of your life. Not just like, here's this piece of paper, here's this diet, and, good luck.
We are here with Adam Berezowski and Becoming Epic. Adam, you were telling me about how there's a lot of things that are wrong in the fitness and health world, and that people really have to take a more personal approach. Tell me what your philosophy is there.
Yeah, well, I always say, like, everybody's first instinct is go to, like, Dr. Google and be like, oh, how to lose weight, how to do this, like, what's the magic pill, and everybody's a doctor. It's kind of like diagnosing an illness on Google. It's like everybody's got cancer, right? And so when it comes down to it, yeah, like I am, when it comes down to the one size fits all, the diet world, they have great marketing. They've got great tools and a ton of money backed just because it's a money making scheme. And, for me, I'm really about helping people find what works for them. Everybody lives a different life. Everybody burns different amount of calories. Everybody works differently. Everybody works out differently. When it comes down to their family life, when it comes down to their career, when it comes down to a lot of things, like, most people think that this one diet can work and then work forever. And, what we try to do, is we try to sit with you, meet with where you're at, and develop the right tools that are going to be good for you, that are going to be sustainable for long term. Because those I need to lose 20 pounds and, quickly for this event, those aren't lifelong changes, and I always tell people, like, if you want to change your life, you literally have to change your life. Like, what you did in the past didn't work, because obviously if you lost 20 pounds and you gain it all back, it definitely didn't work. I can't tell you how many times people are like, oh, I'm just going to lose my weight. And then the finish line, and then all of a sudden they're like, I got to do it again. And yeah, those are the things that I just cannot stand. And there's so much noise in the fitness realm, and, the Insta famous, influencer, like I call it like the overnight success of like, they're already there. I want to be like that. And I'm just, take things slow. So many people want to be successful now. Same thing like in business as well. It's like so many people aren't about the grind. They're like, oh my God, I worked hard for 3 days and I don't have a six pack, and it
Right.
just, it kills me. It literally kills me.
Yeah, I know you really believe in like the 80-20 concept, that you can't be so rigid that it breaks, right? You do have to have some flexibility. But
Yeah.
what are some things that people can do? Like you're saying not to just do a one size fits all. Where does someone go to get help if they don't know what the next step is in their health and fitness journey?
Yeah. Well, what I've learned is that most people tend to like seek out through insurances, like nutritionists and registered dietitians. But the one thing that I've learned is that they really don't teach you how to properly fuel your body. And so I would recommend, so we have a team of nutrition coaches, obviously in my company, that we work with we meet with where you're at. And it's a little bit more on the educational side, because again, like, I want you to learn something that you can take with you for the rest of your life. Not just like, here's this piece of paper, here's this diet, and, good luck. And so nutrition coaches is a really a place to look, and utilizing that term nutrition coach, not a nutritionist, just because they really like identify with where you're at, what you're doing, what your movement is. And then they build basically a program specifically for you based on where you're at, instead of like, here, eat 800 calories and you should lose a bunch of weight.
Yeah, and I think that's a big differentiation. Just nutritionist is someone who's like, here's a list, but nutrition coach implies that there's a relationship there, right?
Yep, exactly.
How important is it to have like a coach or somebody along with you in the journey when you're looking to make a major life change?
I mean, it's basically like having like a paid cheerleader your entire life. And honestly, no matter how much it costs, there is no better investment within yourself to have that person basically go through the trenches with you, because they work with your emotional side, they work with your physical side, they work with your basically every breakthrough, like, oh, I had a wedding this weekend, I had a bunch of cake, I feel crappy about myself. And, and then it's like, okay, I want you to take a step back and, really realize that it's just a bad moment and not a bad year. And, and then basically make a plan. It's that typical saying, if you plan to fail, or if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And that's really what a coach does, is they help develop a plan for you and work with you on that instead of just being like, here, good luck.
You said that it's important that a good coach focuses and addresses both the physical, the mental, emotional, the whole self. Talk a little bit more about that. Like, how intertwined is our physical health and our mental health and other aspects of our total well-being?
Yeah, well, I'll just talk about kind of my experience with it because like since 2008, I've been on a health journey, and each phase, it's like unpeeling the onion of my personal life, of like my past, my present, and then also where I want my future to go, and really coming to terms with some of the changes in your life, because change, I think, is the biggest mental hurdle that people go through. Is like people are scared of change. They're scared of like, oh, I don't know what people are going to think of me. I don't know, my marriage might crumble. My kids might not hate, or my kids might hate me for not being home as often as I need to be. And some of those things will destroy a person, in their journey, because it's like when you want to take that time to care for yourself, you kind of feel selfish in a way, but you really have to feel selfish in a way. Like, and that's, with my daughter, I mean, I'm lucky enough that I own my own gym and I can bring my daughter here, and spend time with her here. But, when I'm working out, it's like, it's my time. If she needs me, she can, wait until my set is done. Right. Because it's like, with the exercise, it is my medication. Like even, I went for a run today. I mean, it's only been 2 days since I ran 38 miles. But people are like, why don't you take a rest day? Well, I was like, well, would you ever miss like your medication if you were on medication? And they were like, no. And I was like, well, this is my medication, because it makes me feel good. It keeps me focused. It keeps me driven. And I'm not going as crazy, but it is so important to keep me on track, because if I take 2, 3, 4 days off, like then my brain starts to kind of taper back into those habits. And I'm so disciplined right now to never go back to those bad habits. And that is what I'm focusing on the most in my journey. And then also what I preach a lot is that, in essence.
Yeah. I think, there's a little bit of a reprogramming happening in the world where selfishness is not necessarily a bad thing, right? It's about doing what's best for you. And that if you do what's best for you, it'll be best for those around you. Self-centeredness, self-sabotaging, those are the bad ones, right? Yep. What are some other things that people need to do for themselves that might feel selfish at first, but are really just good for them?
God, there's a lot of things.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, we talked about like prioritizing, like getting your workouts in, right?
Yeah.
What are some other things that people need to do?
Well, it's also addressing, like, let's go back to the mental health comment. Like, it's addressing some of the things that have damaged you, like basically the crash diet world, right? Because like most people are like, oh, I'm just going to diet and get the weight off, right? But if it continues to put you in a position where you keep going backwards, like it's not the crash diet that's the problem, it's you're the problem, And I can't tell you how many times where I've looked a client in the face and they're like, well, I'll just do this because this is when I was successful. And I'll be like, well, why you keep doing that? Because you're not successful now, right? And they're like, oh. So then you go back and you start to look at the habits and patterns that were created, to get them back to where they were or to where they didn't want to be, and to really convince them that, hey, this time is worth it. This money investment is worth it, because it's the selfishness of a community like ours, because our gym's not cheap, but we know it works because it's the investment. You got skin in the game, and you're going to show up to class. We're going to make sure you show up to class, and because that's your time, and we care about you no matter what's going on in the outside world.
Adam, I think it's great that you're encouraging people to focus on their whole self and find what works for them. If you're liking this content, please share it with somebody else in your world that wants to become more epic. And have a great day.